This is a little sinister. We're gonna do lacrosse ball on our hip flexors. You can also use a tennis ball. So basically, if you put your thumb across the front of your hip and lift your leg, you'll feel a bundle of muscle pop up right about here. So that's what we're going to roll. And you can go along it, but you can also go across it. Use your arms to offload a bit of the weight so that it's not so uncomfortable when you're first starting out. And don't go fast, just a nice steady pace. I'm gonna use the foam roller next to do some myofascial release of our groins. So we're in this position and we're gonna start just on the outer third of the thigh. Then you'll move to the middle third and kind of trying to rotate here a little bit to get different portions of the muscle. And then you'll come in and get the inner third. And you don't have to go too fast. Just nice steady tempo. This is a figure 4 hip stretch. So you're gonna lie on your side and bring this foot in front of your knee and just above your knee like that. And then roll onto your stomach. What you're trying to do is get this point on your hips down, ideally to touch the floor. So you'll kind of contract your bum a little bit, sort of gently push this down toward the floor, but it's gonna take time. It's not something that anyone can just, push their hip bone down to touch the floor. And then you'll just rest like that. This is the elevated hip flexor stretch. I've actually set myself up on a bit of an angle to the step. Then I'm coming across, and now I'm bringing my hips and my shoulders so that they're square to the step. And I feel a stretch in the leg that's down. I'll show you from this side. So I'm coming in from an angle at the step, put my foot straight on the step, bring my hips and shoulders around to be square. And I'm feeling a stretch either here or into your thigh. Staying nice and tall in your torso. If you want more stretch, squeeze your glutes together as opposed to leaning back and extending your back. You do the quadruped rock back. Don't let the lower part of your back round at all. So just sit straight back with your hips as far as you can. You will get to a point where your sort of tail tucks under a little bit, and I don't want you going that far. We're trying to clean up that squat pattern. You really like to bend your low back a lot, or round your low back to get down in that squat position. So just think sitting your hips straight back, keeping an arch in your low back for the quadruped rock back. So I like this hip internal rotation, lying supine or face up. So my feet stay flat and my knees pinch in, and I'm not forcing it. I'm just going till I feel a gentle stretch, and typically that's deep in your hip. Some people feel it deep kind of through the back side, but I think the reason some feel it in the front and some feel it in the back is because it is quite deep in there. This one a lot in our warm-up, so it'll be familiar to you, but it's your active dorsiflexion. So keeping your heel on the ground, this is the leg we're working on. Keep your heel on the ground. Make sure your second toe points straight to the wall. And then you're just going to bring that knee as far forward as you can without your heel lifting off. And we'll go kind of over your big toe, bring the knee over your middle toe, then bring the knee over your baby toe. So you're kind of getting 3 different angles. Big toe, middle toe, baby toe. And you'll probably just feel a little tightness down toward your Achilles. Use this half kneel increase push a lot to help people with their butterfly slide or butterfly crawl, especially if they have sort of a weak side. So basically I just have a resistance band. This I have a little kit and it comes with a cuff. You don't need a cuff, you can just put a loop in the band. But the big thing is to stay up nice and tall and get that full push out to the side. So I don't really have a lot of pressure on my foot. I'm just letting it slide across the floor. If that feels kind of too sticky on your floor surface, just kick off your shoe and then push across with just your sock, but staying nice and tall here. I don't want you leaning away or leaning toward, just getting that nice push. And then as you can stabilize, you'll make the resistance heavier. So then you have to put more force and learn to generate more force from that low position. You do the dumbbell split squat. You'll really at the bottom, I want you to be in about a 90-90 position. So the front knee is bent at 90, the back knee is bent at 90, that back thigh is pointing straight down at the floor, and that's really your position. So you might even want to start down there. We're going to come down until your knee is just 1 or 2 inches off the floor, and then back up. And really I'm thinking of pushing this front foot into the floor to lift me up and down. I want to make sure I'm getting the glutes on that side and that I'm keeping my chest up. I don't want you falling forward here into that split squat position. The knee is staying roughly over the ankle, and from the front you're making sure that the knee is pointing straight ahead, not falling in like that or even just slightly in. You want to keep it right in line with the middle toe, or the second toe actually, of your foot. We're going to do a standard dumbbell 1 arm row. So the big thing here is I want to have about a 90-degree bend at my hips, and I want to keep a flat or a neutral curve in my lower back. I don't want to be rounded like this. I'm going to stick my bum out behind me, push my chest out in front a little bit, and that's the position I'm going to have. Now when I row up, my elbow will be just away from my side, and I'm going to squeeze that shoulder blade back as I row. I'll even pause a little bit at the top so that I know I'm controlling the weight and I'm getting that good squeeze. I don't want to do, see out there starting the lawnmower. Just get that nice squeeze. And again, for this one, we're going to bring the elbow just a couple inches off from the side, not straight out to the side on this one. This one will come right back. When you do the half kneeling cable lift, you'll come out perpendicular to the line of the cable. And you'll take a fairly narrow stance, so I don't want this foot out wide or this knee angled in at all. Keep it straight up and down and in fairly tight to where this knee is. And then you're staying nice and tall in your torso, so you'll kind of extend through this hip, staying tall. I have an overhand grip here on the rope. I'm pulling and pushing, staying tall in my torso, so I'm not turning my shoulders as I come on this one. I'm just staying nice and tall, pull and push. So my upper arm comes right across underneath my nose. When you do this stability ball rollout, I want you to start with a bit of a forward angle. Your hips in line with your shoulders, so I don't want your bum out behind you. I want it here, so your torso's in a straight line. Then you're just gonna roll until you feel like your abdominals want to contract. And then again, just come up this far. Don't come all the way up and take the tension off. Start and stop here. Bracing with your abdominals the whole time. If you get to a point where you feel that jump on your back really strain or almost quickly tighten up, you've gone out too far. So slow down a little bit, stop. As soon as you feel like your abdominals just want to tighten. This is a side plank progression. So first one would be with your knees bent. When your knees are bent, sit back in your hips when you're on the ground, and then when you come up, bring your hips forward as opposed to side bending like that. So bring your hips forward. So that's one. And then the other would be from your feet. And it's okay to put one foot forward and one foot back. I used to always want it stacked like that until I saw Stu McGill speak on biomechanics of the spine, and he pioneered really the planking exercises. And he said, hey, the plank's not meant, side plank isn't meant to be a balance exercise, it's meant to be a stability exercise. So I thought that was really good. So now that's the way I teach it. Make sure this shoulder stays back. Sometimes people want to roll it forward to get more rectus abdominis. We do a squat lateral to a leg lift. There's an awful lot going on. This leg and this hip have to stabilize like crazy. This hip has to have the strength and the range to lift up. So we just come over to the side, get your weight over this foot, lift that leg, back up. Come to the other side, get your stability here, lift that leg, come back up. And when you lift this leg, I don't want to see this knee falling in. You have to be able to keep your good stability. To be honest with you, some people don't like doing these in the gym, and I can't say as I blame them, but they're really important glute activation exercises, so we need to do them, whether you do them in the gym or in the basement with the windows closed and the lights turned out. It's up to you. We're going to start in a hands and knees position. We're going to bring our heel as close to our rear end as we can get it. So we're going to flex our hamstrings, put them in a shortened position so that hopefully they'll get the message that we really don't want them doing this next movement, which is hip extension. So I don't want any movement here, no movement in my lumbar spine whatsoever. You can see I'm not even or just barely getting my thigh in line with my torso. And that's because I'm a little bit tight in the hip flexor. So if I kept trying to push it to get up there, that would come from back extension, not hip extension. So watch yourself, and I think very few of you will get beyond even with your torso. The second part of this, same thing, my heels to my bum, and I'm coming straight out to the side, just as far as I can. Again, without rotating my hips. So I'm trying to get my glute medius there, and the first one I'm trying to get more of my glute max to do the work. So glute activation exercises are really just retraining exercises to make sure that you're able to turn on your glutes, to extend your hip and abduct at the hip. Lots of athletes, it's really surprising, but they get very dominant in their quads. They get very dominant in their hamstrings, and they can do those actions without even using their glutes. They can extend their hips. So we need to make sure that we're staying on top of it and that you're using those glutes, because they're your most powerful hip extensor that you have. The staggered stance, stiff-legged deadlift is kind of a funny one. Really, you're going to have all the weight on this leg that's fairly straight. The toe of the other foot just sits down, or the toes just sit there. And then it's just a hinge at your hips as you come forward until you feel a stretch in this hamstring. And then you're going to squeeze the hamstring and the glute to bring you back up. Notice I'm not letting my back round. So people often get here and then they run out of room in their hamstring, so then they reach with their fingers. I don't want that. I want it just to be a hip hinge. So your hips kind of sit back a little bit. Then as you come up, you'll squeeze here. When you start doing this with dumbbells, make sure to keep those dumbbells or the weight quite close to your leg. Don't hold it out here. Hold it right in close to your leg. This knee is softly bent, so it's not locked straight, softly bent, but it's rigid, meaning that I don't bend it more as I come forward. This is a dumbbell shuffle rotate. So holding a dumbbell with both hands, I'm going to shuffle, come here, get low in my legs, rotate my hips and my shoulders, load this outside leg, and then push back, shuffle this way. So I almost start it like a rotary pass with this dumbbell, loading up that leg and then driving off. This is a low shuffle to knee down, pushing off the outside leg, shuffle, knee down. Again, I'm holding this nice and stable. I don't want my upper body swimming all over. When you do the shuffle and hold, you're going to stay low the entire time. You're going to hold for 5 seconds at each end. So I'm here, moving, again, as fast as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then a big push. 2, 3, 4, 5. So when it's time for me to go, I don't want to sort of stand up and drop down and go. I want to just turn on my legs and start pushing right away.